Right now, we're in South Minneapolis off of the intersection of 35th and Hennepin in Uptown. We're at the tattoo shop, Iktomi Tattoo. My dad was a Lakota language and Dakota history teacher at Four Winds High School. Living with him and being exposed to culture here and kind of re-identifying myself as like an artist and a skateboarder, kind of like built up some connections in that industry where it's like, you know, through skateboarding, I got introduced to like sort of like urban art and graffiti and stuff. And then that kind of morphed into tattoo culture. It was a very like passionate sort of emotional moment for me, because it was like the lightning strike where I'm like, oh my gosh, I am in love with this. The unfortunate truth about that is that I had never had that sort of attention before, and it definitely went to my head. And I definitely got exposed to like drug culture and the side of like Minneapolis that I hadn't been exposed to before. And it actually ended up being, you know, the biggest crack in myself at the time. Indigenous culture and tradition really wasn't a part of my life when I was using. And I would say the first, you know, 10, 13 years of me tattooing and being an artist, using and drugs and criminality was my culture, you know, and I left little to no room for anything else besides a very vague family connection. I ended up sort of like surrendering my passion for creativity for some broken self-promises that I had given myself based off criminality and chase an invisible dream, and ended up in prison. And when I was incarcerated this last time, I made a commitment to sobriety and a commitment to culture. You know, as anyone that has made a similar commitment, it's kind of, you feel like that black sheep trying to like approach the flock. And, you know, I was always afraid of like, maybe not like cultural gatekeeping, but, you know, it was hard to approach. And what ended up being the hurdles was myself. And once I kind of like let that down and just showed up as, you know, transparent, real me, and just represented myself, I was accepted into, you know, culture, and it really wasn't as scary as I thought. I was working for one of my best friends at his shop in Maple Grove, and I was essentially provided with an opportunity from some of my other close friends in recovery, as I am also in recovery. And, you know, they are business owners and entrepreneurs, and they sort of gave me a chance to start my own business and essentially offered to sponsor me to become a business owner. My dad, who passed away right after I was released from incarceration, he had always identified with the spider spirit and spider, and you know, it kind of told me a little bit about, you know, the Iktomi story and, you know, creation story. When it came time to naming it, that was like the first idea, and, you know, it was super cool to sort of represent that in the industry and in the community. It was also cool to bring some of like the Lakota vocabulary to the business world. So the tattoo shop opened in September. We have a pretty stellar team. There's another Indigenous person named Coleman. There's Donnie Chapman. I have another apprentice named Henry, Gary Galkey, Sarah Emma, Danny Prince. And that's the team so far. And, you know, we all vibe pretty good, and it's just very honored to work with those awesome people. I like to provide a good creative atmosphere for people to be stoked to come to work at. I'm not just trying to like toot the horn or anything, but it's been just exquisite feedback, both from like the neighbors, the Indigenous community. You know, when we started, there wasn't another sort of Indigenous-based tattoo shop or Indigenous-owned, or even like really pro-Indigenous culture tattoo shop in the area. I absolutely love creating all forms of tattoos. It's not like, you know, a skateboard trick belongs to one particular person. You know what I mean? So it's like in tattooing, it's not like one style belongs to anybody. If you're the type of artist that just enjoys, you know, having range, like myself, then I think like, you know, it's cool to be able to step outside of comfortability and admit to yourself that I have some room to learn here. I do a lot of like recovery-based tattoos, so it's cool because it gives someone a platform to share their experience and sort of like have a connection with a tattoo artist more than just being like, I want this here, boom, product made, you know, have a good day. We actually hold some recovery meetings here in the tattoo shop and in the art center. And a lot of the artists here in this space are also in recovery and are involved in the program. What keeps me going is making sure that, you know, I'm a part of that story that people can look at and be like, I used to do crime with him and now he's not. And maybe that has an effect on their choices and their imagination on where they could bring themselves. I think that being in recovery, if handled correctly and looked at right, is empowering. Living with a purpose, finding passion in everything. I've adopted sort of this like Zen philosophy on the importance of every moment, and you know, there isn't a finite number of moments left. The more people that can just open their eyes and shake their neighbors' hands and share space with each other in a positive way and just challenge themselves by allowing people that they aren't, you know, initially comfortable with into their lives can just really change the world.
The Native Report team had so much fun learning more about Willard Malebear and the Iktomi Tattoo Shop. Tattooing isn't all Malebear is up to. He also recently created his Dream Space, which provides free and accessible art materials for his community. This is called Unified Theory Collective. If you'd like to learn more about Iktomi Tattoo or Malebear, follow him on social media.